I'm back after cleanup, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the cooking portion now. So I've got my casserole, my Dutch oven, whatever you want to call it. I just kind of think of it as a kind of a small style Dutch oven. It's 5.5 quarts, I believe. So it should be plenty big enough. I also have a lid as well too for it. However, if a lid, isn't readily available, certainly understand you can use aluminum foil over the top, or I even have pizza pans, because I make, like I said, pizzas. So, those can even be used as well too. So we're going to give that just a moment to warm up. And in the meantime, I'm going to get my spoon and my tongs. I love my wooden spoon. That's my favorite spoon of them all. Okay. All right, so we're going to add a little oil, just enough to kind of coat and cover the bottom. Kind of swirl it around a little bit, just a little more. There we go. That should do it. There we go. All right. So, we've got our oil. We've got our chicken right here. I'm going to season that chicken just slightly. A little pepper. And a little salt. Just a sprinkle, not a lot, just a half a pinch or so. Is all that I really need. Okay, so I'm going to wait for this to get warm. Remember to use a towel to hold on to the handle, because it will get hot. All right, so kind of just checking. If I need to check, I can see how hot it is. I can kind of put a piece of chicken in, see what happens. Not quite. I want it to get just a little warmer. I want it to kind of come almost right to the smoke point, okay? Because we want to brown that chicken. We want that chicken to get kind of a nice brown color to it. Not burnt, but a nice brown color to it. So we want to do that quickly. So we want to kind of sear that chicken when it goes in. Now remember, we've got cold chicken, so that chicken, when it's cold, going into a hot pan, it's going to drop the temperature of the pan a little bit. I won't say significantly based on the batch size that we have here, but it is going to drop that temperature a little bit. So we want to make sure that it's hot to start with so that it stays hot, because it's easier to turn the heat down and let it cool than it is, I think, professionally, than it is to try to heat everything back up again, okay? Because then what we'll be doing is really kind of stewing the chicken in its own juice instead of getting a nice sear on it. All right, that should be pretty good, I think, at this point. I can, again, double check. Put a chicken in. Yep, that's good. That's got a nice little sizzle to it. So I'm going to go ahead and place my chicken in. Be very careful. It will and it can kind of splash up or splatter. So I'm going to turn my heat down. Got a good sound. Okay, and just let it brown. Might want to take and just kind of swirl the pan around a little bit, make sure that all that chicken is coated. I'm going to turn on my exhaust fan. Okay. Not quite ready to turn yet. And I can tell because it's sticking a little bit to the pan, and that's not uncommon for that to happen. That's just telling me, you know, we're not quite ready to be flipped yet. We haven't quite gotten that Maillard reaction to that chicken. Once used to be referred to as caramelization, but we've since learned that it's really a Maillard reaction versus caramelization. Okay, there we go. When it starts to release itself easily, that's when I know. Again, be very careful if you have one. If you have one of these devices comes in handy. It's called a splatter screen. You put it over the top and then the oil won't splatter up on you. So I'm a big advocate of the splatter screen for a couple reasons. One, I don't like to get burned. But two, it makes it a little easier to clean up. So you don't have all those droplets of fat all over your workstation. Okay. Good. Yep. Now they're starting to release. Put my splatter screen back over, let that continue to cook. Remember, we're not looking to cook the chicken entirely, all the way through, okay? We'll only be cooking it, you know, browning it, essentially, is all that we're going to be doing. Because once the vegetables and the rice and the tomatoes and the stock go in, it's going to cook on the stovetop, you know, for about 20-25 minutes total cooking time. So that will cook the chicken the rest of the way. All right, now I think we're about ready to take that chicken out. Remember, we're just browning. We're not necessarily cooking all the way through. Okay. Let's take our chicken out. If it sticks a little bit, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to add my sausage. And I'm going to brown my sausage real quick. Turn my heat up just a little. This will not take long. I've turned my heat back up a little bit. I noticed my pan was just cooling a little. And the sausage is going to infuse that oil that we added earlier with a nice aroma to it. So, and flavor. Watch the bottom of your pan. Make sure it doesn't burn. Okay, if you notice it starting to get a little brown, you can always, again, turn down your heat. There we go. All right, that's about ready. All right, so I'm reviewing my directions. So my next step after browning the chicken is to brown the sausage and then set the sausage and the chicken aside. So we're just about ready to do that. And then the next step is to add our vegetables. So we can go at this point now, and we're going to take out the sausage. We're just going to set it right there with the chicken. Okay. All right, so what you've done, bottom of your pan might have a nice kind of golden brown color to it. That's okay, that's good. That's actually kind of what we want because it's got some nice flavor built in there. Okay, so I'm adding my celery, my onions, my bell peppers, and I turn my heat down to medium. And I am going to gently sweat those vegetables. Now at this point I do want to turn my heat down. I am going to season the vegetables just a little bit as well. Just a little salt, just a little, and a little pepper. Now the pepper, I know I'm using a pepper mill, so that would be just maybe 2-3 pinches of pepper if you're using it from a, let's say a can, you know, like this. Alright, I'm just going to continue to let that cook. Until those onions become kind of translucent. Currently they are opaque, meaning cloudy, okay? So they're they're opaque. And what we want them to become is translucent, which means see-through. And we got to do that kind of slowly because we don't want to scorch or burn the bottom of our pan. We also too want to release some of the moisture that's in the vegetables. Now I've lost my sizzle. I don't hear it, so I'm turning my heat back up a little bit. So step 3 is to add onions, garlic, celery, bell peppers, onions, celery, bell peppers, stir 4 to 5 minutes, then add garlic and cook for an additional minute until fragrant. We're not quite to that point yet. We've only been going, a minute or so. Turn it up a little more. Excuse me. Okay, so turn that up a little bit. Periodically scrape the bottom, get that fond off, F-O-N-D, fond, which means the foundation in classical French. And that's where a lot of flavor is. That's again where those juices from the chicken and the sausage have browned in the bottom of the pan, and it's going to have a lot of good flavor. So be very careful not to burn the bottom of your pan. Alright, so while that's cooking, I'm going to think ahead, and I know that I need 2.5 cups of chicken stock or chicken broth. So I've got my broth right here, 2.5 cups. go. Okay, so we have our 2.5 cups of broth. And I've got my tomato product as well. Alright, so now I can come back to my vegetables. Alright, so my onions now are starting to become translucent. I can see that the celery and the bell peppers are starting to soften. So I'm now going to add my rice. Not my rice, I'm sorry. My garlic. Turn my heat down a little bit. It's a little high. Boy, that really is smelling good. I can really smell the fragrance of that garlic now that it's gone in. You want to be real careful about that garlic. Once it goes in, stir and adjust your heat. You don't want to burn the garlic. The burnt garlic will have a bitter flavor to it, and it's very identifiable, so please be careful. Okay, so my garlic has gone in. Turn my heat. I didn't mean to turn it off. I want to turn it down. Just pull it off the heat a little bit. All right. And now I'm going to add my rice. So I've got my 1.5 cups of rice. And I'm going to stir my rice in. And I just want to get a little color on that rice. So just a little toasty color to that rice. Okay. So now we're at step 4. We've added our rice. We're going to cook until lightly toasted. Then we're going to return our chicken and our sausage back and add our tomatoes.